this is what you need to understand. And in my session, on the heading of big data, I want to bring an awareness of trying to have that kind of curiosity and keep yourself motivated. Motivation, when we talk about, most of the time, people, they used to say that, that my supervisor or my, somebody is not motivated, not motivating and not appreciating. Motivation has to come from your side. If somebody is criticizing you, you should become more enthusiastic, more energetic, and you should not try to prove the others, but first you prove yourself. And that kind of personality alignment, improvement, and make yourself more competitive enough, it is most required. When I, as an employer, when most of the internship and professional, they used to come to me, I used to say, regardless of your skill set, regardless how much you are knowledgeable, regardless of your achievement, these are not the three criteria which I consider as something this particular candidate is employable. I consider how much he is committed and how much he has the eagerness to learn. Because when you learn, you will earn. But if you are learning just to earn, then you are in the wrong direction. So integrating those objects from the database side and understanding the different devices in the presence of Internet of Things, understanding the data throughput, understanding the type of data it is coming out, and trying to adjust those data sets into your data mart or into your data universe. It is very much important. And how you will understand all of that? Based on the requirement, based on the dashboards which you are creating. I said, as a head of IT, if I know that currently Master of IT or MTech students right now in these universities, they are sitting at these classes. If I, as a head of IT, I know that these many farmers are sitting at this particular village and this is their condition as of now. Although all your students, you have a student ID with different universities and different colleges, do we have anything as such as of now that where I can see what is my digital literacy, what is the literacy, what are those students who is performing well at the state level, at the college level, at the university level? No, we don't have. So uplifting the quality of the education, uplifting the quality standards of the data architecture is very much important. Even I have seen that big companies and a lot of global experts, they don't take things from the holistic perspective. So many technologies you see, like in 2014, this is the list of the strategic technological trends for 2014. It came up, where Gartner said in 2013 that there are four forces of disruption which will disrupt and destroy any business unless you don't try to converge all those forces. Convergence means you need to work with all those forces in a way to address the problem in the business and in the IT. And again in 2014, the HTML5, that responsive design. We are using Joomla and WordPress and so many things, HTML5, which provides you uh, uh, same experience regardless of the platform and regardless of the device. You know that social media technologies, and I understand, I will not ask a question that 100% of you might be having Facebook, for sure, and 95% may be WhatsApp, or 90%, and that percent is missing, maybe due to some, some family related things where your family may not be allowing. And I could tell you that maybe 60 to 65% might be having Twitter. How many have got Twitter? See? That's what I said. And from the LinkedIn, you are the final year for, student, right? Maybe 50% or 60, 55 to 60% LinkedIn. How many of you LinkedIn? Raise more hands. I'm looking. Okay. So it's around like 50%. I'm the most connected person on the LinkedIn across the Middle East and Asia, with the 33.5 million professionals connected to my network. And most of you might be already connected. Thank you. And I would like to invite you to connect to me, but with the apologies that I may not be able to access. The reason because 2 years before, the limit of accepting the connections is over. Last year, LinkedIn has requested me, can you delete some of your connections? So since 2 years, I am deleting. That doesn't mean that I am not deleting everyone. I am deleting unrequired, and which is not very quality connections. Why I said this deletion of connections and all of that? Not to praise myself. The same thing it happens with the data. In 2013, I have been invited at the Imperial College of London, where Rajiv Gandhi has studied as a student, to come as a speaker on the big data. And I was a part of one session as an audience, of course. A speaker doesn't mean that he has so much knowledge and he keep on speaking. If somebody is not a good listener, he cannot be a good speaker. So I am coming here to learn something from you, and I'm sure that I'm going to learn, and you are the one who is going to help me to learn and be a good student. So when I attended one of the sessions, he's the head of, he's the CTO, I don't remember his name, he's the CTO of Department of Defense of US. You can understand what kind of thing we are talking about. He is the CTO for, and he said the enormous amount of the data is coming up. Yes, it is good. More data means you have more flexibility to find the value within your data. But if there is no quality, the data which you are receiving, what is the use? So the quality of data, it matters. I said, really? Yes, I think he's right. So when we talk about the big data, we talk about 3 V's, volume of the data, and how fast we can access or fetch the data from those storages. It is very much important. When we buy a server, we also, other than the memory and the processor, we look at the hard disk. So when we look at the hard disk, we think what is the size of the hard disk, right? And there is another criteria which we look at the hard disk. What is that criteria? So this, of course, I got 10 terabyte hard disk. Yes, that's good. What is the next thing we look at? Yes, he is right. Of course, how fast, what is the RPM of that particular hard disk or that spindle motor which we used to see. How fast it can rotate and give you, when you request for the data, it can provide you the data. And when we talk about the data has to be not only in a digital format where you can make the decisions, but in the presence of machine learning thing which is happening, it has to be machine readable data. Data has to be machine readable, where the decisions can be made based on specific scenarios and based on the history. I will try to cover that particular thing. So IT role is emerging, it is transforming. According to according to Gartner, there is a new role which will be created in large organizations in the US in 2015. 25% of the large organizations will have a new role, thus called CDO, Chief Digital Officer. His role is to work hand in hand with the Chief Information Officer and with the CEO, with the Chief Marketing Officer, and try to see how you can have better market penetration. So the IT role is transforming to an advisor, or you are like a brokerage service. Cloud and big data, when we talk about, it is not very much common in the with the IT professionals. The most loving people for this particular emerging trend is the decision maker, the people who spend the money. CFO, Chief Financial Officers, they want to see, before I need a space for few days, because this project is for few days or few months, 3 months only, and I need this much space of the server. And it was Ahmed Amer who used to say to them that procure these many servers so that I can stage in the data center. And procurement itself is like 4 to 6 weeks time globally. You place an order with an HP, Dell or whoever, EMC, it will take 4 to 6 weeks of time just to get that particular hardware in place without any configurations, without any other problems, other things. And now with the help of these dynamic capabilities and scalability and agility which the cloud provides, now you can provision the server within a few minutes. And you are paying only for the time which you are using. You are not paying, the cost. Let's say you use the server and then it's on your head. So there is a depreciation is happening. There is administration where you are paying the money for these servers to administer, and I am paying also the money for the resource who is helping me. And I want you to have that kind of visualization and openness of your mind, where you think what a consumer thinks, what the business and what your employer is thinking. Let me talk about the backup. How many of you know backup and restore? Most of you. And how many of you don't know the backup and restore? Let me ask the other way. Of course, no hand here. Oh, there is one hand. I am proud of you because you got the courage to say that. Because acceptance of weakness, it is your strength. Because a person who understands, this is not part of the slide by the way, a person who understands what is your area of weakness, when you identify. My father is he was an electrical engineer. And he used to tell me during my childhood that identifying the problem in the electricity is like 70% resolution. And the same thing it happens with IT also. If you know where is your problem, with your personality, where is your problem, you know how to fix those problems. Now, convergence of those nexus of forces, four forces, SMAC, social, mobile, analytics and cloud. These are the four forces. From the ITC perspective, they call it as a third platform. So don't get confused when you read something as a nexus of forces or the third platform. So the data, it is offline, residing in some server or in your email or in a specific system. And I have seen most of the project managers in the corporate world who has a lot of projects, they have so much project. But when the owner or the board want to know what is happening for that particular project, so they have to wait for that guy to come up. And how it happened today, my laptop is screwed up. What about the cloud and what about everything I'm talking about? So the connectivity is a basic fundamental parameter for the technology. There is no connectivity, no technology. What I would have expected that my presentation would have been somewhere in the cloud, and I would have come to an ambience like this, where I know that the cloud connectivity or a good bandwidth dedicated connectivity is there. So there is no need of this panic and there is no need of all of this. I just come and they should be on my iPhone or on my Android. I have done one presentation for the e-commerce. All my presentation it was on the iPhone. No carrying of laptop, no nothing. So adoption of those technologies, it is very much important for you to give a better experience. An experience from the owner's perspective, from the cost perspective, and from the professional perspective. So we call a holistic experience. Practicing a customer advocacy. Do you know what is customer advocacy? Please ask me if you don't understand anything. Customer advocacy is something you are doing for the betterment of the customer, not to make money for yourself, what is good for you. No. So the data is offline, online, on move. And in 2015, Gartner came up. According to the research report, there are two worlds. There is a real world and there is a virtual world. And these two worlds are getting merged. In 2013, in one of my events in Delhi, I have given a session on the virtuality and the virtual world and the real world. How the virtual world is getting inside to the real world and how this real world is getting inside to the virtual world. You know that Google Glass, you might have heard, and then it is stopped, it is halted for a while because of some, not just because of the technicalities, because of the privacy and so many things. That's called augmented reality, where you see an object as a part of the Internet of Things and you can interact with that particular object. So computing is everywhere, on every device. There is a statistics. It is the last year statistics basically, or I could say no, this is the Q1 of 2015, where in 60 seconds, what is happening? Just 60 seconds. And that shows how much the data is coming up. And that shows what kind of challenges we are facing. I, as a head of IT for a big group of companies, 3 years before, lot of data it used to come for one division. And we used to compute the data with the traditional tools, techniques, and we used to have an output after 3 days. Just one report. So the data is coming, but you don't have that kind of power which is required in order to analyze and compute. And I was asking in Vignan Engineering College that what is the unit of, process, like when you talk about a processing power, how it is measured. Like hard disk, we know we measure it gigabyte, terabyte, and And by the way, let me ask you, after terabyte, you might have heard petabyte, right? And then somebody can stand and go beyond petabyte. Exabyte, good. Yes. So she's good enough. And in some of my sessions I said, so when we are listening those unit of measures, why? Because this is what it is required. And we have, two years before, ISRO has announced the most powerful supercomputer. And even I think even this year also they announced, but I am not very up to date about the ISRO, Indian Institute of Research Organization, something they. And they said that the most powerful supercomputer is available, and that the power, it is not just measured in terms of the storage, but in terms of the computational power it carries, right? And there is a unit of measure for that computational power. What is it? No. And this is actually, this question I think last year also I asked, it's called flop. Megaflop, gigaflop, exaflop, petaflop. You have done floating point arithmetic or something, right? Floating point, where the data, if it is not fixing, so it will flow the data. And this is the enormous amount of data which we are talking about, and this itself might have doubled almost within this during 6 months. So data computation, it is the biggest challenge. We used to give like sensex we have done. By the time we complete that sensex, it's already like 3 months.